So much going on. Oh my gosh. We are back with Jasmine Crockett. If you all aren't following what's going on in Congress, there's a lot going on with her, and of course Marjorie Taylor Greene, their whole like back and forth, the clap back, but being a little bit more savvy, I guess, and how that's handled a little bit more on Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Oh my goodness, you won't believe what's going on with HBCUs. There's something like kind of like, oh wow. So if you gotta, so all right, let's dig into it. Thanks for jumping in with us. Content Kings and Queen. I'm Cherise, CMO of hiphoptruth.com. And so
building.
What's up, Tenji? Man on the street, former bureau chief for TMZ. Hey, Martin.
Hey, I see Tenji has shifted his desk. I was loving the bed behind you. Now I'm like, these trees, I don't know. We gotta get you lit up more. The trees look sexier than you. Like
the trees is blocking out the historic black church behind me. It's the most prominent black church in the area. It's actually when Obama and them actually go there.
Wow, that's what's up. That's what's up. So you live in large in the historic black district, the historic black district of said unknown city in the DMV area,
in the Old Town area.
Right. The Plantation still area, Oh man, that's what you love about DC. Those walking them streets, DMV. But it's good to be here, and I really think that it's interesting the difference between Maxine Waters, I'm reclaiming my time, and that moment versus Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene moment. Because I think that both moments have significant movement in an election year. But I think that this moment here that we're experiencing is going to be more significant than reclaiming our time. If you say that now, people go, I think this moment is going to last for at least 6 or 7 years. I don't think it'll be this is going to be.
I don't think so. I think because nobody knows her right now as if they already knew Maxine.
Nobody knows who? Jasmine.
Yeah.
You're like, he's like,
who's gonna get it? Yeah. So it's a difference when a legend does it, like Maxine Waters, who's been there, and has been any movement. It's like just doesn't really has a brand name is popular yet, so it kind of draws a little bit away from it. But the moment can just be a moment. I don't think it's going to be legendary.
Really?
No. Yeah, I think it's different for I think the move that she's making with this is something that will have impact in the way that legends have impact. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if people will know to attribute it to her as part as to where that came from. Kind of like we all are sitting in here with lights in our houses and electricity in our houses, but most people don't know that JP Morgan was the first person that let Thomas Edison run electricity through his own personal home. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like the impact is there, but most people don't know that JP Morgan was associated with that being the spark to go from it being just an invention over to being something that's used in a practical way.
So he was the first corporate customer or first customer period?
He was first customer period. He let him run it through his personal house. And I think Westinghouse, last name Westinghouse was the ones that came in and did the wiring. But most people don't know that those three people even knew each other at all, right? So I think it'll have that kind of impact. I think we'll see politicians and even business people, when they are quoted or something that they've done goes viral, I think we'll see them start to trademark it, but
I got to give the context to what happened. I don't think y'all gave the context to the viewers of what who we're talking about and what happened actually on Capitol Hill that day.
That's a great point. Your Black News, Martin, can you like let me know what's going on?
And I'll defer to my man on the ground in the streets.
I just know they were having a hearing.
I'll take it. Yeah. So to set this up, Trump was having his trial that day, and a lot of Republicans went to New York that day. And so when they got back to DC, this committee, I don't understand the rules to committees. Like, you have to have a committee meeting? Why can't they reschedule it? That's my thoughts. Why can't they have rescheduled to a different day? Because they knew most of these guys or people were going to be up in New York. So, but apparently they had to have this meeting, and the meeting started late at 6:00, and it was going until 10. And so there was a back and forth, and this was really around decorum. Actually, it was really around decorum. They were back and forth about the rules of decorum. And so I'll refer to her as MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. MTG was like, hey, maybe you can't hear what I'm saying because your eyelashes are getting in the way. When you flip it, she was making a kind of a crack about the fact that, and I think this, comes back to popular reality TV, Tenji. We know that Flavor Flav and that show had a famous scene where the eyelashes of one of the ladies was flapping. And that was, I look at that iconic moment in television history. And ever since then, people have gone, reality TV producers have focused on women's faces when they've had fake eyelashes, and they made the sound click, 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 So that's the popular moment. And it's not done to white women, it's done to Black women. So that to me was the historical reference that Marjorie Taylor Greene was referring to, is your eyelashes are flapping too much so you can't hear what I'm saying. And so, but immediately then, I believe, what's the name? AOC went ahead and she, supported. AOC's response was, "Oh no, girl," and I that was, no one has really gotten on AOC for that. I felt like that was very, being sarcastic. Like the Bronx was coming out or the New York was coming out of AOC, but I felt like if AOC said, if she handled it more professionally, Jasmine could have really slammed it. But AOC made it, funny, sarcastic also. And so it had this whole tone. And then Jasmine came up later on and asked the chairman of the committee, she gave a what if, and did it, I think, kind of smartly. Said, what if I said this? And she proceeded to say what she said about Marjorie Taylor Greene's body and her hair. And the chairman didn't get it because the reference, went right over his head. It was literally, if you listen to the words she said, and he could hear her, or was it his toupee too tight? Like in other words, so she said bleach blonde, but when you say bleach blonde to a lot of people who've had blonde hair in their families, they don't see the difference. Rest of us see bleach blonde is different from natural blonde. Usually bleach blonde means that you're not a natural blonde and you've bleached your hair so much it's now bleach to get that color. So it was a really interesting moment to me in Congress history, but I would have loved to see it turn into a conversation versus a back and forth where it led to, because I think that the big picture that's missing out of everybody's news is that this is about decorum. Like literally this argument was about decorum on a committee. Siri just wanted to chime in too. Siri just started talking.
So I just want to, I think you're right. So for those who don't follow closely, right, who don't love politics, Jasmine Crockett is a House of Representatives congresswoman from Texas, and she is African American. You can see her there on screen. In Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, is a congresswoman from North Georgia, and then Alexandria. I don't want to say her name wrong, but I want to say Ocasio Cortez, or as they call her, AOC, is a congresswoman from New York. And Martin, you're absolutely right. In the House of Representatives, they're not supposed to do personal attacks on each other's appearance, on their, it's not supposed to be about personal attacks. They're supposed to debate policy and ideas. And so when MTG, or as they call her, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Caucasian woman from North Georgia, said that she couldn't hear Jasmine Crockett, African American woman, because of her fake eyelashes. It was a bit of in kind, but for Jasmine Crockett to come back and ask, she didn't make the direct attack and say, you have this, you have that, but she came back and said, basically as a point of
what if
order, what if I were to say that someone had, fake blonde hair and this kind of body type, would that be against decorum? And so she did find a way to use the rules to get her point made. And I think that what she did is so in line with what African Americans have done and had to do in the United States, really since slavery. When you go back and you look at the moves that abolitionists made, over and over and over again, they knew and learned the rules of law, of whatever, and would maneuver within it to get their point across, or to use it in a way to try to get freedom. And we've seen it in some movies like Amistad, and a few others. But I think what's different here with Jasmine Crockett, since what she said is going viral. You said there are how many songs out that you've seen about using her words?
4 songs.
And how and they're catching.
Yeah. There's one popular I put in on the YouTube channel. By the way, we're being syndicated across CTR Media Network, founded by Dr. Tina Ramsey. So if you're watching us over there on YouTube on CTR, hey, hi. It's our first broadcast on their network. I put in the chat over there the Instagram link to DL Hughley, and this is one of the most popular songs that was created. I don't know if you can play it, or you have the if you don't, I can play it. So this song went viral last week, and it's starting to still pick up, but it was viral on Black Twitter.
And so we're seeing that she went ahead and took the step of trademarking it, where I don't think that what's her name? I don't think that Maxine Waters, I don't think she trademarked it when she did the Reclaiming Her Time, but it did hurt when she did that. Did it go viral? Is it playing, Martin? Or
oh yeah, it was playing. You guys can hear it? You can hear
no,
it? Oh wow, that's crazy. I wonder if you couldn't hear it because the speaker was. Let me see. Yeah, it was. Hold on one second. Let me try it again. Maybe it won't come out.
Yeah. Nah, it might not play. I don't think it will. I think we would have to be sharing the actual audio. But for those who want to check it out, DL Hughley shared it on his, and you said you shared it on where'd you share it?
YouTube, yeah. CRTM Media's YouTube. We're sending out the signal there, and where else can I say?
Okay.
All right.
So we'll drop the at. We can drop the at where people can find it.
Yeah.
Do that.
And then there was a country western song put out by a country western white singer. So I guess he's like a country western folk singer more than but he usually does spoof songs on TikTok, and he put out one. So yeah, I gotta check and see. I feel like reclaim. I feel like there was some merch for Reclaim My Time, so she might
There
have.
was, but I don't know if it was Maxine Waters, if it was hers. I don't know if she trademarked that, but the step that Jasmine Crockett took to actually trademark it is different, because we don't always see people, especially in Black and Brown communities, taking a step to get some ownership over how we are impacting the culture. And so I think that this, whether people agree with her or whether they don't agree with her, that the content creators who are following us and who are watching us, this is a step that we're highlighting, because if your company or your brand or you as a creator or an artist you work with is making an impact, then please use this as a reminder that there are paths that other people take and have taken countless times to make sure that correlates positively into your own household's financial moves. I mean, she did it quick. That was swift action on her part, because this was only a few days ago. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to play out. And then I know, did you have any? And then I know, 10G, you had seen how everyone's moving with the Drake and the Kendrick Lamar continued epic versus
Before we go there, I wanted to just what you just said. I don't know if you're going to 10G for more Reclaiming Your Time. Right. There's two things happening. One is on May 31st. That is at the National Museum of African American History. I think in I want to say, I don't know which college this is at, but it's si.edu. They're having a Reclaim My Time feature exhibition with Black designers. The Smithsonian. Okay, it's Smithsonian. I was like ISEDU. The Smithsonian, the largest Black museum, has a showing opening on May 31st next week, dedicated to ideas about cultural heritage, bodies at rest, history of labor and leisure. So to, I think, 10G's point, which he said earlier, I think that Maxine Waters, is definitely legendary. And I definitely think that she hits home for a lot of people. And these are some of the top designers in the country. It's about 17 are being a part of this exhibit. One is a chair designer. I think there's, yeah. So but that said, I do think that for this next generation, that way that Jasmine said what she said will be something that the next generation learns from and may use. I'm not going to call you ... But if I did, what would you do about it? Like that. I think that is going to be in people's psychic, and I think the younger generation psychic, for a very long time. I think Reclaiming Her Time, My Time, has more higher cultural aesthetics, we'll say. But I think this insult, this insult, non-insult, I think it's going to be a bigger moment.
Yeah, and it's good though. I do like what's getting ready to happen. Honestly, this is getting ready to start being a regular thing up on Capitol Hill with some of these hearings, because we're so torn, both parties right now. So and it's being an election year, it's really going to get heated up. So it'll be a lot more than what we just heard the other day and saw. So I expect it to really get ratchet over there, and to take away a lot of the decorum from where they're supposed to be totally different. Just supposed to be sharing ideas and policies, and it's going to a different level. is getting personal attacks, and it's sad when we start seeing, we don't want to go back to the divide with the racial slurs and different things on both sides. So I hope they could tame it down. But as we go, next topic, what we was talking to and we was having a discussion earlier, as we go back into when we talk about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar situation, I've noticed, like, especially when it comes to some of the analytics that I look at on the back end with my content and other content, I'm still, regardless, people might say, Kendrick Lamar is, just destroying this competition where he's put Drake to rest, RIP, and all this stuff. But when it comes to the dollars and when it comes to the algorithm and who's getting the keywords, Drake is still driving the conversation, right? It's his impact. It's, anytime what makes things go viral or gets good engagement, you have to have that villain. So you're going to have, and in a villain, especially how you all were talking about when we talk about reality, reality shows. And, me being with a producer one time and who's a close friend, she would always tell me with the reality shows, the best character on the show is always the villain. You have to have the one that everybody loves and hates, and that's what moves it. That's what moves the dial. So, anytime you look at most of the articles when it's about the Kendrick and Drake, it's always more talked about Drake. So, and if you want to make content and the content that works, I've noticed is just Drake, whatever, analogy you want to make of what happened, how it happened, because of what is going to lead back to, Drake losing fans or Drake not being real or Drake is not as good as people say, and versus the impact what Kendrick is putting lyrically on there. But I know when I'm making content, I'm putting Drake in the headline, and I'm putting Drake on the forefront, whether he's losing or winning. That's going to be the main topic of the conversation, as we're having right now, because we know this moves the dial, and this is the conversation where people, even you can start talking about something about Kendrick Lamar in this battle, and it'll go right back to why Drake is either losing or he's lost fans or he's not that good or he's hyped, So I thought that was interesting.
I think that you're spot on when it comes to Mr. Drake's scenario of popularity, being the villain, being a person everybody loves to hate, right? And that's, to me, we see that with Trump. We see that. I don't know if you guys heard about the new movie that was in Cannes Film Festival that got a standing ovation, but and supposedly, allegedly, the Trump campaign is going to sue to get the movie
8 minutes. 8 minutes standing ovation. That part. Sorry. That's
Yeah. If I was the producers, I would just release it over like Netflix or something that was a demand that to be part of, or Amazon Prime. Like, it's free. We have no streaming platform. It's free right now. Limited time, you can watch it for free. But the concept that we all have seen this person do messed up stuff. I don't want to call it what it is not, but at the same time, it is despicable things. I can say that. Refer to people, insult, all that stuff. So he's definitely the villain that a lot of people love to hate, right? And at the opposite time, you don't really hear the people that people like to love. We'll say like an Al Gore, or we'll say even Obama. Some people love to hate Obama. That's true, but he doesn't hit the same, like to Tintin's point. Put up a Trump headline, negative or positive, versus the Obama headline. It's not going to hit the same way. It's just not. The traffic is not going to, so it's that villain syndrome of being the villain that people love to hate. I do see that. Although I think, Tenji, one of the things that's interesting about this particular situation in pop culture, you know, I didn't know that The Weeknd is a more streamed artist than Drake, and that to me is amazing.
The most streamed artist.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Over everybody, Taylor Swift, everybody.
That is amazing. That's something that never gets talked about.
Yeah, it doesn't get talked about.
And so I think that Mr. Aubrey Graham will be switching up his stuff in the future. I do, to me, see the impact of this particular scenario that he went through affecting him negatively in the artistry space, and having to do like a Jay-Z R. Kelly moment when R. Kelly stepped off the tour and Jay-Z had to do the Jay-Z and Friends, y'all come around me, help me finish this tour. I can see, you know, Drake having to reach out to his wide circle of influence, and it won't be a Drake only situation. It'll be a Drake and family or Drake and friends situation. So I think it's negatively affected him in music. I don't think it's negatively, to your point, affected him in his draw popularity wise when it comes to articles or even movies. If he decides to go back to acting, or if he decides to become a social investor, do a Brad Pitt situation, you know, all of a sudden he's helped people build homes in the hood in Canada or something, you know. But we'll see. One thing I do want to run back to real quick about this with MTG and Jasmine Crockett. I think from a publicist perspective and a content creator perspective, both MTG and Jasmine Crockett have handled this perfectly for their base. So if someone says your content is too, you're always excited, you're always, you know, or your content's too goody, you never talk about anything negative, lean into it. Double, triple down on it. Because if that's who you are authentically, which is what MTG is now, she's working out more. She's talking about being a 50-year-old who can lift weights more heavier than anybody else in her caucus. She's talking about I swim, I jog, and I'm going to be 50. I can see some brand coming out and supporting her, and she taking the money from being called a B body, and like I can see her going to get a hair color company. Like, so if someone insults you, quote unquote, in their mind they're insulting you, I do believe the way to handle that is to lean into that. If that's who you are authentically, if that someone's, you know, dogging you out for being who you truly are, thank you. What were you gonna say?
I think
you gonna scroll down to the
I think
no?
I think
scroll down? Okay. I was gonna say, if you would scroll down to where
I think
Marjorie
that well, this is the news story. This isn't the Smithsonian.
They quote her. It's down in the bottom.
Okay. So I think that what's interesting here is that go ahead. Is this what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I was going to show that picture of her working out. Her post. She's like, I'm doing it. Like, yes. It's like, yes, my body is built strong.
So I think that politicians, I think what you're saying is a good point, that politicians really have a lot that I think marketers, brand owners, creators could learn from. When it comes to people who are like about their brand and about their message and staying on message, politicians amazingly do a much better job at staying on brand and really staying on brand, staying on message, being clear and concise, because often they've got Tenji, how much time does a politician usually have when they come out? Like you ran the bureau, you were the Washington D.C. bureau chief for TMZ, so you've seen more than Martin and I'm sure many of our viewers, how much time politicians typically have to work with to get a message out. What I'm looking at is thinking of like how they are able to use the amount of time they have when they come out of session, and that's, you know, when you and your peers are talking to them, and then like they've got to deliver points. So I'd love to hear what you think about how they manage getting their points out with the time they have versus like what brands or creators do or don't do.
I think he stepped away for a minute. So I'll step in. And
Sure.
I definitely would say working with 10G and also Charles Ellison from Charles writes for Politico, and he also has a brand called B Note. And he's the reason why I can talk to state legislators from the East Coast, because Charles brought me in as a research fellow for something called a Council of State Legislators. To answer your question, I think that a lot of times they have a shorter window of we'll say virality, or a shorter window to respond. The media isn't as interested in, you know, your comment on this chemical spill tomorrow. They want to know what you think about it today, and then tomorrow they're on to, you know, there were 14 different random violent acts in New York in one day. And so they're just talking about the chemical spill again. They don't want to hear it, which is why I think Chuck Schumer, a good example of this is Chuck Schumer for years, almost 10 years, would do a Sunday press conference because he couldn't get, you know, press during the week. So he did a Sunday press conference. And if you wanted to get his comment on something during the week, you made sure you were at the Sunday press conference. Otherwise, his office was like, we're not going to acknowledge you, since you guys don't want to acknowledge us when we want to talk about Medicaid or, you know, something that's non-controversial. So he set up those Sunday press conferences to make sure the press covered what he wanted to talk about. And then if you didn't, and I'll say what Trump did in his administration, he made sure that he got, we'll say, people that were favored his point of view in that press room. He revoked press badges from people who he felt were not favorable. And I'm just going to say it, that's, you know, the politicians don't have, and, you know, it's people talk about, what do you call it, dictatorship and stuff like that. But I will say, you know, press and politics have had a battle since they started. And the battle isn't because the press doesn't cover politics. The battle is because the press will say, you're not relative. You know, you're not relative. You're not relevant. You know, I don't care about that. With the garbage not being picked up over here is more important than what you got to say about this policy that you're working on.
Well, I think a president saying, you know, they're not going to have like, you know, known reputable news outlets, that they're just not going to let those in. Like it does start to get into a freedom of the press situation because it's not a brand. But I hear what you're saying. I do think that that brands, private entities, that do have the absolute right to say that, well, we are in a competitive situation. You're a competitor, or that's a competitor. We're only going to put our content here, and here. Private entities that actually should take that approach don't. Many private entities, creators that have, you know, fans, creators and brands that have outlets that love their products, they don't do what we do see a lot of politicians do in saying, hey, I'm going to send you directly my new product release. I'm going to send you directly some way early snippets on this project that I'm working on. But we do see, especially now lately, politicians doing that. And so it seems like it's kind of gotten turned on its head in the way that is happening. I know that when Coca-Cola first got founded, one of their early presidents was the first one to do like couponing and really moving in this really savvy way. And way back then, you would see a lot more when we were talking about earlier, decorum, that politicians wouldn't very directly lean this way or that way. In fact, Alexander Hamilton was able to completely slam Aaron Burr for doing what he saw as, pandering and going door to door. Like, it was so, no, let your ideas and let your content speak for itself back then. And here we are now where it's become more of a marketing campaign. So I think that even though I personally think that politicians should be doing more freedom of the press, I think that I don't even think they should be able to pay for ads. I think all political ads should be free, and that it should be the best. Let the best ideas win. But regardless of how I personally feel on that, what I do hope is that the positive and uplifting creators that tune in with us will start to see how news outlets, like they do a really great job of saying, like, having that really strong headline for their content. They do a really good job of, but wait, there's more, when they're going to commercial break. And we also see that even though I personally think that politicians should be fighting in the battle of ideas and having, I think it would be great if they all had that all political ads were free, or have a cap on it or something like that. But anyway, what they are doing is, I think, in many ways more savvy than what we're seeing some of our, especially our positive and uplifting creators. So I hope that they can learn from that and say, okay, who are some of the outlets, who are some of the bloggers, content creators that are likely to be sympathetic to your approach or the products that you have? Who are some of the influencers that you could probably strike some sort of, quid pro quo deal, which should not happen in politics. But you as a private creator, absolutely, you figure out who you can partner with and to get your stuff out. And where are the warm audiences for you? What are the Facebook groups that your brand or your products or that your project should be communicating in? And go there, be loud, make a big splash, be good, be brief, be gone. Kind of the thing, so there's well, that's just my thoughts on it, on those. And I know we were going to talk about a different world too.
You got something you want to say, Tim? Well, you were going to say something.
Oh no, I was going to say this is the last year of the news being able to cover the elections and them owning it. After that, it's going straight to online, to creators and just the normal people that's going to be covering elections.
Tim, do you think that, like, this is the thing? The news is wide open for disruption. If I was kicked out of the press room, what I would have done, if I had a news brand and I was kicked out of the press room and Trump was like, yo, you're Black news and cover me, like, I'm not down with y'all, get the hell out, you're revoking your White House access, I would have been at the gate.
Yeah.
And I would have did a man on the street, and I would have made it popular to come by and leave a comment, because my reporter is at the gate. It would be so, what we haven't seen in news in almost a decade now, we haven't seen reporters outside on the gate like they used to be in the 80s and the 90s. So not everybody got access to the White House. I was like, but the thing is that, to me, these brands, and the new comes to news, they're not willing, like you said, this is the last year that things are going to be the way they are. Because content creators, whether it's Kansas City Defender, who was just a Instagram account, quote unquote, and now has grown into a real news brand because they broke the stories and they stood in the gap of the police and the city, saying that Black women were not being targeted and killed by a serial killer. And Kansas City Defender went to the streets, and a minister who was feeding the homeless said, yes, they are. We're missing 3 or 4 women. And of course, everybody said, every news outlet and every city official and the police department said that's a complete lie. And unfortunately, a sister escaped from the alleged serial killer's house. and then they found a body months later in the river of the same person they said was missing with the same type of injuries. And so now Kansas City Defender is the golden child of news, this Instagram account, but they were the ones that were hitting the streets, whereas NBC, CBS, Fox, all the local Kansas City, Missouri outlets were like, there's no serial killer running around here killing Black women. And when they went to his neighborhood, people were like, we heard screams. His neighbors like, we would hear screams regularly at night. Like it's like, and everybody's backtracking, everybody, But my point is that standing in the gap, like you said, this is the last year news can be what it is. It's the gap is going to be us. The gap is going to be that first person to the new site. And that first person news, something went viral a couple months ago we never talked about, but the young lady that said that she was doing Little Kim, dodging bullets and protecting her son. I don't know if y'all saw the interview, but she was like, I was doing Little Kim and I was dodging bullets like this. And that's funny. Ha ha ha. But a deeper story there is, why is she dodging bullets? Like a deeper story that nobody covers, it's like, is this a regular occurrence? And how many other people, how does she even know to move left to right? What did she hear that is this a regular thing that her body took over and just automatically moves like the Matrix? Because she's so used to the gunfire. And so the news keeps missing these gaps. And so to your point, I think this is the last year that the news is going to be able to cover the news the way it is, because people are just not being talked to, and the powers that be will say they're upset that how they're being covered. So there's going to be a pushback that is probably going to be permanent, where news won't get the access that they've had, but there's going to be a new type of access that's required, which is our conversation, the conversation of content creators and being on the ground. I don't think anybody has asked any Chase employees how they feel about what Jamie Dimon has said. Former or past Chase employees. Jamie Dimon says some stuff that's phenomenal, and he says some stuff that's horrific. And I've never seen a news outlet talk to one Chase ex-employee. like, and maybe they won't get them on record. I'm not saying C-suite. I'm saying a former teller who doesn't have an NDA. Just a regular, regular smuggly janitor. You work for Chase for 20 years. So how do you feel about what Jamie Dimon said? They never do. But back in the day, they did. That was news. An employee of the guy leaving the plant, who's on X number of line or whatever. And then we started seeing whistleblower. We started seeing people graduate to different levels. But now it's just like they don't even try. So I agree with you 100%. The news can't. Jamie Dimon he's now the chairman of JP Morgan Chase company. I think he stepped down. I think he stepped down as CEO, and he's just the chairman of the board. And he said recently he's going to retire. So but what he said in the past is that, Chase leaned into diversity because it made business sense. And he said, we had the best years we've had when we became more diverse. We never had this money in our coffers until we got diversity right. And no other CEO has said that. And that frames kind of in opposition to where Stephen Miller, and I can't think of the other guy, Blum, that sued successfully 7 or 8 times to get affirmative action thrown out. And the Supreme Court agreed with Blum's last lawsuit against affirmative action. So they're rolling back the concept of using race as a reason for things. And I have my own private thoughts about that, but
Got it. Speaking of the Supreme Court and how it affects people who are named often when it comes to affirmative action, a story that I think really kind of flew a little bit under the national news radar was this story about A Different World. The cast from A Different World recently did a tour across the country. They got out there and they established a scholarship fund for HBCUs. So they did this to A Different World. For those who did not know the series or haven't seen it, it was a series that was put out in relation to the Cosby Show series about life on a HBCU campus, and it was wildly successful. That hundreds of thousands of people attributed to their decision to attend a Black college, and proud HBCU alumna here. Go HU Hampton! What's up, HU out there? But I think this is a really, really cool example of creators doing something that we were just talking about, right? There's this, national conversation that has happened about Black and brown children's young people having access to college. So national relevance, then looking at where my warm audiences. They did this tour, visited HBCUs, also invited press that would be warm audiences for them. And the cast said that they were surprised as they go into these tour stops and theaters of thousands of kids there to see them talk about their experience. They come in and the kids are singing the theme song as they come in. Even Sinbad, who was recently in the news, he joined as much as he could and did like some Zoom in exchanges. He said that he was touched and that they even knew who he was, right? These, older Gen Zers and very, very young millennials, these college students. But I think it's a great example of what we were just talking about and hoping that content creators will say, if there's a national conversation that's happening, that's relevant to what you've created, what you produce, what you offer, like here, these are all content creators. You got Jaleesa, you got Freddie, Cree Summer, Dwayne Wade, all of their characters in their real life personas.
Dwayne Wade, Dwayne.
Sorry, dang! I said Dwayne Wade. Oh my gosh! Wow, brain just.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I'll just do his real name, Kadeem Hardison.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it.
But they all came.
But do we know him as Kadeem Hardison? Don't we know him as Dwayne Wade? It's like
that wasn't his real. No,
most people don't even know who he is. Kadeem Hardison.
What was his name? Was Dwayne something? Though.
Yeah, something.
His name isn't Kadeem Hardison. But Kadeem Hardison, Cree Summer. They all like a lot. You can see like a lot of them. They came out, and my point is that them being content creators, they took action. They didn't just watch this national conversation happening and say, "Oh, look at that a national conversation relevant to something like groundbreaking that we worked on that made an impact that changed lives." National conversation happening, completely relevant to a huge body of work that we put out and gave passion and time to. And we're just going to sit at home. They didn't do that. They took action and said, you know what? And the, partnership, collaboration, messaging, inviting the news in, warm audience, going to where the swimming, fishing where the fish are. And so I just think it's a great story of uplifting creators, leveraging the moment that we don't often see. If people want to know more about the story that they're seeing right there, it's on hiphoptruth.com and they can check it out. But I was really excited and encouraged to see them doing that. I don't think that I think that politicians do a much better job of seizing the moment than many content creators do.
I think also when you have especially when it comes to shows or people in general who have an impact at a certain part of their career, and then getting like historians to go back and just like how you spoke on Alexander Hamilton when they were able to come back and put together that play Hamilton, what it did, it brought to light people who didn't know anything about Alexander Hamilton. And you see that now with a lot of creators who will go back into history and make people aware of a special time or a special character or and you're seeing it also with products. So that nostalgia, people can gravitate to it if it's a message behind it. If you can bring some type of storyline, why this happened, or what was the course, or what it made you feel like during this moment, and you can get people aware of it. Now you're gonna build back a new audience, and what helps with that. And sometimes you even look at music. There are people who will recreate a certain song that you'll hear, and it's like, oh, that was good, 20, 30 years ago. And so now you bring a new audience as they bring a different type of version to it. And then the people who knew it before, and it's the same thing with content now, and bringing back that nostalgia and then just recreating it and then adding it. And if it worked one time, I'm telling you, this stuff does work, and you can still. This is another way to grow. And I'm noticing it. Like if you look on YouTube, there are people who I was telling Martin about this one channel, and this guy, all he does is short documentaries, and he just tells different stories about wealth, and brings and like you talk about the Rockefellers, different families and different ways, and it's interesting for people who want to learn that type of stuff, or heard little pieces about something, and to get a better understanding of it. So I would say when it comes to not just creating content but learning different things, or if you're someone who in your industry you'll get it, you should know the history behind your industry. And it'll help you become a better creator, a better business person, just to really knowing people who are at the forefront, excuse me, of some of those things as well.
As you're right, as especially when it gets to the whole notion of if it worked before, it'll work again. Research has shown that especially millennials and a lot of Gen Z, they are the first two generations in the research that was tracked, that was shown to me when I was working in like corporate America for big brands. They're the first two generations that really think that what their parents were into is cool. Like that's a part of why it's in line with how we're seeing the success of like the Star Wars reboots, all the reboots that are out there, right? These shows and these movies that were incredibly successful, like in the late 80s and the 90s, like X-Men got a reboot, and millennials went to see those movies with their kids, with their parents as little kids. Star Wars, even a few others have gotten like some really strong reboots, but this generation really loves what they don't think. They hang out with their parents. I mean, most of us who are like millennial or Gen X parents, or even those young baby boomers that have millennials that you're raising, you can see that it's not the get out of here, kids should be seen and not heard. These kids have a seat at the table. They hang out with their parents. They do movie nights and activities with their parents. And so if you have a product or a project or content that had an older predecessor, there's a way that you can get the best of both worlds in a few of the different concepts we talked about. We talked about the verses. People like to see comparisons. So if you were to put your current day version up and compare it in a cool, engaging way to the original version of it, you can like do some kind of side by side, showing your new offer versus the throwback or its predecessor, or maybe paying homage to it. I think that we've seen content creators like Jennifer Hudson get a lot of success. She's really strong in paying what appears to be very genuine homage to people who came before her. But that even though it's not a visual side by side that she gives, every time she does it seems to go really well. And so that's a thought. I think it would be really, really cool to see a reboot of A Different World. I would love to see that. I hope that this was some sort of like test the waters effort to see if there's interest or relevance. I hope if it was, I hope that the packed out theaters and kids singing the song as they came in is a data point to, yes, please greenlight that project. That would be awesome. And Martin, Chinji, any I see we're knocking at the we're coming up on time. Any final thoughts or closing
Speaking
thoughts?
one final thought. Speaking of theme songs, we got to get a theme song for the podcast. Because all the regular TV shows, you remember a show because of a theme song. It's so powerful. Whether you're thinking of what was it, Different World, or just any of your favorite shows. The big
Bel
one,
Air.
yeah, the big ones always have a good theme song, but behind it. Wes, what would you say is one of the most famous theme songs in the sitcom?
I think Fresh Prince of Bel Air is up there. I would be
Like
surprised.
people can recite that,
Yeah,
recite that whole thing. Facts of Life is a good one.
yeah, I know the words to that. Yeah,
So
that's a good
yeah. So we gotta get a theme song for when we come on.
That
Yeah,
sounds good. Send us your music.
yeah, I think that I don't know. That's good. That's a good point, Ten. I don't really. There's some AI stuff out there that's interesting, but I like the AI stuff for spoof, for not necessarily like Charisse has some really good producers in her network. Think of the two. I'm thinking about Charisse, and they're good. I mean, I say they're great at creating movie themes, and so
even now, look up 50s Power. That the what's the name song for that made Joe.
Yeah, power is. But so here's the thing. So to your point, do you feel like there hasn't been another Aaron Spelling? I mean, I think Dick Wolf has taken over the Aaron Spelling throne, because Dick Wolf has the FBI series, those 3 shows, and he has Law and Order, those 3 shows, and he has a couple other things. So I think, but to your point, Aaron Spelling shows were able to create theme songs for each brand that was specifically, whereas with Dick Wolf, he only had to do FBI and he had to do Law and Order, and it's the same sound. But I think it's hard, and I'm not stepping away from your call to action amongst the 3 of us. Hey, create a theme song for Content Kings and Queens. But I think it's hard, to your point about Power. I was thinking how hard it is. The other shows in the 50 Cent content universe, which he's now come to Louisiana and they've embraced him in Shreveport. He's I haven't seen the site physically, so I can't say this is.
It's not ready yet. It's not open yet, but it's.
Well, no, I mean even the work on the site. So I haven't seen pictures from the site. I think it's just a ground, empty lot. But he's allegedly is building out a studio that will rival Tyler Perry in the southern hemisphere for content. I don't hear the music though. To your point, I like his shows at, what do they call that, at the end? The soundtrack at the end, I think, has been phenomenal for all his shows. But the main soundtrack or the theme song, that's just power. Like I haven't heard, and I think it's hard to do that when you have all these brands to do an Aaron Spelling, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, all Chips, all the stuff that Aaron Spelling created. They all had individual songs that were phenomenal. And this. We have the queen. We have the queen. Where's she at? Right? We have the queen of music here. She's a legacy.
That's a big statement. That's a big statement.
You gotta get us. We're putting it on you to come up with a theme song for us.
I mean, the queen. You the queen here. The content queen. You the queen. Yeah. We the kings.
We got a theme song together.
Proud.
So when we go in the auditorium, we go on stage, our theme song, starts playing before we go take our seats.
You know the music. They know the music.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, we have a comment from Tariq Talmarcus. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Tariq. But he feels like because he's commenting. We showed that headline earlier where J. Cole is in intervening and maybe to kind of get that offline. There's a lot that I appreciate about J. Cole's like peaceful efforts within hip hop, but I think that's a whole nother story. But but he makes a comment here that even though Drake's numbers, as you were saying earlier, Tenji, Drake's mentioning his name can drive the algorithms to show the content more. It's really amazing that his name will drive the algorithm to push and show the content, but at the exact same time, Kendrick will have the numbers and the streaming and the listens and the downloads. Like I think that's an entire we are seeing a content case study happening right before our eyes with this one. Like totally. There's so many learned lessons here, I think, especially for creators whose products and offers are relevant to the hip hop community. There's a lot you can learn from how your audience might act or what they might be interested in from there. But we got another vote there about the Kendrick won. We've also got the brand team at Ask Dr. Pratt sharing about this. This is like right there, the crux of the crux. That Drake didn't lose brand reach and monetization. I think that's also why we see some people say, "Yeah, let them do it." Like they'll be okay with their name being in things and not respond because it's driving them as far as money. And we also did a story about that recently at hiphoptruth.com as it relates to Beyonce and the country music lash that she received in some ways, but she's laughing all the way to the bank on that. Before we jump off, I want to give a shout out to a piece of content that I don't think a lot of people know is out there, because we talked about Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman from Texas, receiving a lot of attention for trademarking the comments that she made. Martin, earlier you mentioned the basically shoulders that she stands on, like Maxine Waters, who's there with her serving, and Shirley Chisholm. And I don't think a lot of people know, speaking of content, Netflix has a biopic out that's streaming about the life of Shirley Chisholm, and it's starring the Regina King. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to that strong piece of content for people who maybe don't know her story and they know her name, they don't know why they know her name. It would be a great one to check out. Even check out with your kids, even with your college kids, or even just by yourself, so you can understand the life of this woman that affected and impacted the rights and freedoms that a lot of us have to pursue office more comfortably.
When I first heard Shirley Chisholm's name was in a Biz Markie rap.
Wow.
Shirley Chisholm. Yeah. I was like, who the hell is that?
Wow. Much love to the Biz on that. Wow.
Rest in power, Biz Markie.
That is dope. That
Okay.
is strong.
All right, y'all. We will see you all next week. I'm wrapping it up.
Thanks for jumping in with us.
Peace
Bye.
out.